Hey guys, how's it going? And today I have an Atago replay for you sent in by Subtender Taige. Now, Subtender is a fellow rank 1 player. They ranked out a little bit before me, and I can easily say that they are an absolute terror when they are sailing this ship in ranked. That's all I saw them play in the ranked season, and no matter what I was in, whether it was my Bismarck or the Mikhail Kutuzov, Subtender would always be either a primary target or somebody that I was trying to avoid based on how my health and positioning was during the game. They are definitely somebody who knows the ship they are playing when they are sailing the Atago, as will be shown in this game. Now, you can see that the majority of the team hasn't followed Subtender off to the east side of this map, and the enemy team has been spotted, but Subtender is also holding his fire in order to stay concealed, as this Pensacola slowly sails closer into volleys of misses. Now, just as Subtender starts to get behind the island, he lobs his shells at the Pensacola, hitting it for about 3,000 before disappearing behind the island again, out of sight of the enemy. Now, that has let him get into position without getting spotted and without getting a citadel in his broadside, and he got here really early thanks to that, because he never had to maneuver to avoid shots from the enemy, and he stayed hidden the whole time and still did some damage as he got behind the island. So now he's kind of looking at this cap. The decap has been capped by the enemy, so there probably is a destroyer, at least one on this side due to the presence of a smoke screen in front of that enemy North Carolina, and there's two Pensacola's along with that battleship. So definitely more than he has over here, as he gets spotted by a plane as he fires on the previous Pensacola again for another 3,000 damage. Now, as you can see, the team behind him has kind of pittered out. They are trying to avoid conflict, as I do believe it's only a Colorado backing Subtender up, but they're trying to avoid conflict because they are somewhat outnumbered. And that's leaving Subtender very far forward without a super huge amount of support. But he has lit that Pensacola on fire twice. The Pensacola did get a fire in return, but Subtender put that out fairly quickly with minor damage taken. So that Pensacola is still burning, and he's on about 4,000 health still. So if he doesn't have a repair cooldown pretty soon, he will burn. And this Hatsuharu is extremely close to Subtender. He is almost within permanent spotting range, where he will always detect another ship no matter what, just based on the range, which I do believe is like 2 to 4 kilometers. Now, Subtender has been spotted by him, and there goes the Pensacola due to fires for first blood. But this Hatsuharu has now spotted him, and the North Carolina is hot on the Hatsuharu's heels. Now, Subtender's backing up to try to avoid any fire from the North Carolina, but the Hatsuharu has actually fired torps at him and has led for him reversing. So now Subtender speeds up and he moves his ship towards the torpedoes and dodges the salvo from the North Carolina, dodges all the torpedoes, and now he has 3 ships in front of him firing on him, and the secondaries from the North Carolina are beating him up now. Hatsuharu very low health. One more shot, there it is. North Carolina's turning out. Hatsuharu's blocking the torpedoes from the Atago though. One salvo off. Not sure if those will hit since he is turning out. And ouch, there is a huge hit. Probably 1 or 2 citadels from the North Carolina as it tries to make its escape. There's a fire on the North Carolina in return. The enemy Pensacola is lighting into Subtender with their primary guns. But then again, the Pensacola is also sitting at range and broadside, so if there are any battleships watching behind Subtender, they will get a decent shot at it. And it looks like Subtender did get another fire on that North Carolina, but sadly, no torpedo hits. And they are backing off. Wow, another huge hit from the New Mexico on the other side. More shells coming in. Dodge all those. Subtender's trying to get behind cover in order to avoid taking any more damage and being knocked out of the game this early. No friendly ships have died yet, which is a good thing to note. 2 enemy destroyers and 2 enemy cruisers have gone down so far. Scrapes by with a little bit of damage from the Pensacola, and one last shot at the North Carolina, sinks it, and along with the fire damage that actually killed the North Carolina, gives Subtender the Arsonist Award. So there's 3 kills so far. And Subtender's on extremely low health at this point. He doesn't have a lot to work with here, and he's trying to stay concealed so that these couple enemy battleships that are in front of him don't pick him off as an easy target. Especially that Gneisenau and the Scharnhorst will just rip him to pieces. That New Mexico is definitely still a threat though. Pensacola, yep, there it is. Went broadside, took a citadel. I'm sure he doesn't want anything from over here anymore. Subtender launches a salvo of high explosive down at the Pensacola. More shells coming in on the Pensacola, all kind of just overpenning, and leaves the Pensacola at 8,000 health. Looks like the Pensacola is trying to make its escape though, as Subtender fires another volley of 203mm high explosive at it. He is still detected, and these battleships are extremely close, but none of them are watching him, which is extremely interesting. Usually they try to pick off the lowest health ship first. So he gets behind the island to where the enemy ships can't see him. He does get a fire on the Gneisenau, and he's now slowing down to try to stay behind the island in order to keep that concealment long enough to maybe get another heal off, or maybe just ambush one of these the 2 tier 7 battleships as they push forward. Now another thing to note is both those tier 7 one of them's a tier 6, sorry, I thought the Scharnhorst had pushed up. But the Gneisenau does have torpedoes. They are 6-kilometer torpedoes. So that's always something to be aware of when you are fighting these ships. Gets another fire on the Gneisenau, dodges the whole salvo from that thanks to RNG, and now the torpedoes are up, and looks like the Atago is charging. Puts out the fire that was started by, I believe, a secondary battery, and puts torpedoes in the water. There's the torpedoes from the Gneisenau. Another fire on his ship as he fails to sink the Atago again. Looks like those torpedoes will be good towards the Gneisenau. New Mexico is reversing, fires a spread of torpedoes at the New Mexico, drops another spread at the Pensacola, and at this point he does not have much health to work with. Lights the Gneisenau on fire one more time. As far as I know, that Gneisenau cannot put him out, but it will not matter, as his last salvos as he sinks will take out the Gneisenau. So there's 4 kills, First Blood and Arsonist with 98,000 damage. Now the New Mexico sped up just enough to avoid all of those torpedoes fired at him, but that Pensacola still hasn't moved. Oh, the joys of a broadside cruiser not moving. So there's the Kraken. There is the It's Just a Flesh Wound. So, a very good game. Not a whole lot happens after this, but just one ship has taken out 5 ships basically solo, with a little bit of help from the battleships backing Subtender up. But he has taken out 5 ships basically solo on a single flank, by using his concealment and using the weapons that his ship has provided, and not staying in the back and just lobbing shells at ships across the horizon. So a very aggressive play by the Atago, but it paid off in the end, and that's all that counts. So very well played to him. Going into the first of the end screens shows that he did 106,000 damage total. Like I said, with the Arsonist, First Blood, the Kraken Unleashed, and the It's Just a Flesh Wound awards. So, 5 destroyed with 2 torpedo hits, which I believe both of them were on the Pensacola, if I'm not wrong. And he just absolutely slayed that flank of the battle. At huge profits thanks to this being a Tier 8 premium. He made almost 700,000 credits that battle, and I think he banks almost 650,000 of that maybe about 600,000 after repairs. So very good job to him, and I'm sure that 4,500 the 4,500 experience that he earned, that can be converted to free experience if you wanted it to, will be very useful in later times, meaning whenever the Missouri comes out. And surprisingly, for being one of the first ships taken out on his team, he is also top in experience. He was one of 3 ships sunk on his team, but he finished on top with almost 2,000 base experience for holding that flank and sinking those 5 ships, with a Farragut close after with 1,800. The enemy team looks like the Scharnhorst that had pushed up on that side, and a Minakaze had tried to carry that team, but with Subtender on the enemy team, it's really hard to do that. And with one flank just completely falling to a single Atago, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to carry a game like that. And finally, getting into the damage report, out of the 106,000 damage that he managed to do during that aggressive push, 38,000 of that was from high explosive shells. That's all he loaded during this battle, which I don't blame him. The Atago is a very good flamethrower, as shown by the 45,000 damage he did in fires. 20,000 of that was also from torpedoes, hitting I think just the Pensacola. I can't quite confirm that. And surprisingly, 2 secondary hits dealing 700 damage. I guess putting in their worth. Is 700 damage worth the booze that they drank during that voyage? I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, a very hard won aggressive push by Subtender Taige in his Atago, and in my opinion, a very good way to show how you don't have to just sit in the back to rack up damage. You can almost solo a flank if you know how to play your concealment, play the terrain, and let the enemy ships get close enough to where you can drop your torpedoes right in their side. And as long as you know how to use your rudder, you can dodge a lot of the shells that are coming at you. Or in the case of the fight against the Gneisenau, just get lucky because German battleships can't hit the broadside of a barn from the inside. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this replay. I know I did. So have a great day out there, and I'll see you next time.